Welcome to the first lesson of this course. In this lesson, we'll be covering the basics of the colour wheel. For some of you, this might be rehashing some topics you're already a bit familiar with, but I promise this foundational knowledge will help you improve your colour theory in the long run. The colour wheel is a visual representation of all the colours, with hues arranged according to their electromagnetic wavelength. This is a great tool for artists as it allows you to visually understand the relationship between different colours. So, in this lesson, let's talk a little bit about the different types of colours and where you'll see them on the colour wheel. First up, let's talk about primary colours. There are only 3 primary colours: red, blue, and yellow. These 3 colours are super important because whilst they cannot be created using any other colours, they themselves are the foundation of every other colour on the colour wheel. As you can see on the colour wheel here, or more like a colour triangle at this stage, the primary colours are equally spread apart. This is because all the secondary and tertiary colours fall in between them. Secondary colours are colours that can be created by mixing 2 of the primary colours together. These colours are orange, purple, and green, and they will vary greatly depending on the ratio of primary colours used during the mixing process. If you have ever tried mixing paints, even as a child, you'll probably recognise the colour combinations that make up each of these secondary colours. Red and blue mix to create purple, blue and yellow mix to create green, and yellow and red mix to create orange. On the colour wheel, you will find these colours directly in between each of the primary colours and equally spaced apart around the wheel. When you mix together 2 secondary colours, or a primary colour and a secondary colour, you get a tertiary colour. There are 6 of these in total: vermilion, magenta, violet, teal, chartreuse, and amber. These colours are great for adding more subtlety to your work, and they fill out the remainder of the colour wheel. You should be able to find some variation of the colour wheel in your preferred drawing software. However, it might look a bit different depending on which program you use. For example, as you can see here in Procreate, you have a range of different colour selection methods to choose from. The disc mode allows you to select your saturation and value in the inner circle and your hue in the outer circle. Classic mode, which is similar to the square you see in Photoshop, has a few more sliders to control hue, saturation, and brightness individually. Harmony, which isn't a colour wheel I typically use, but it's good if you want to work with complementary colours easily. We'll talk about this more later in the course though. Value, which lets you select individual characteristics of your colours with separate sliders, and you also have the option to create your own colour palettes. Let's focus on classic mode for now. Even though these layouts seem really different, it is important to remember that they are actually all letting you adjust the same colour information: hue, value, and saturation. So, what do these 3 categories mean when it comes to choosing your colour? Hue is essentially just referring to the pure form of your colour as it would appear on the colour wheel. Luckily for digital artists, this is made easier by the ability for you to quickly slide through a selection of every available hue without having to worry about mixing your colours. Value. Value is also sometimes referred to as brightness, and it describes the amount of black or white pigment added to your pure base colour. For example, a dark forest green has a lot more black pigment in it than a light grass green. On your drawing software, you can control the value of your colour by sliding up and down within this section. Saturation refers to the vividness of your colour. The more pure pigments in the colour, the more saturated it will be. Adding colours from the opposite side of the colour wheel, or even a grey, can help desaturate your colours. In digital art, you can simply select your desired colour saturation. Colours on the left will be less saturated, and colours on the right will be the most saturated. If you want your art to look more harmonious and natural, it is good practice not to use any pure white, black, or colours that are too saturated. I typically avoid using these areas on the colour wheel when selecting my colours. For your first assignment in this course, we're going to experiment with mixing some colours. I want you to create a palette that is only the 3 primary colours, red, blue, and yellow, and black and white as well. If you're a traditional artist, you can just grab your favourite supplies, including these colours, and if you're a digital artist, you can create your own digital mixing palette and use the blend and smudge tool to create the same effect. For this exercise, I want you to create 4 colours based off your skin tone, eye colour, hair colour, and your favourite colour. This might seem like a pretty simple exercise, and if you're a digital artist, you may wonder why you would do this instead of just selecting whatever colour you'd like. I'm certainly not suggesting you digitally mix your colours every time you draw, but This simple exercise is a great way to improve your understanding of how colors interact, and it will overall help you improve your color harmony in your illustrations in future. To show you an example of how to do this, I'll be trying this exercise digitally, and I've provided this template in the course resources so that you can do it as well. I found the best way to mix your colors in Procreate was to use a soft airbrush set to about 50% opacity. I would use this brush to combine my colors until I got something kind of similar to what I was looking for, and then I would use the smudge tool set to a hard brush setting to make the color more uniform and blended together. As you can see here, I start with a red for my skin tone because I have quite a red base. I then go in and add a tiny bit of blue because I have actually got a cool toned skin tone. I add a bit of yellow as well to lighten things up, and then some white. Then I use the smudge tool to blend that all together, and I see that I might need a little bit more yellow to make it more similar to my skin tone. Also adding a bit more white because I'm quite pale. Now that we've got that one done, I can move on to my eye color. This is pretty simple because I just have a pretty standard blue eyes. I first just add the blue and I make that quite pigmented, and then I add a bit of black because they can have a bit of a dark color in there, and a little bit of yellow because they have a slight green tinge. I blend that all together and I'm already pretty much at the color that my eyes are. So my hair is actually quite yellow. I don't know if you noticed in the intro shots. It's this sort of like yellowy dark blonde. I kind of combine mostly red and yellow for this, and then I add a little bit of white and a little bit of blue just to even it out. I wanted to have a bit of a brownie go, but mostly focusing in on that yellow.